I won't just survive. Oh, you will see me thrive. Can write my story. I'm beyond the archetype. I won't just conform. No matter how you shake my core. 'Cause my roots, they run deep. Oh, you've so little faith.
All right, welcome everyone to Mormon Neuro-Divergence. I am so excited to have our guest here today, Brian Gruenewald. Am I saying that correct, Brian?
Yeah, Gruenewald's fine.
All right, perfect.
Yeah,
okay,
you got
so yeah, awesome. Now this is actually my second attempt at an interview. I did try doing an interview before, but I had no knowledge of what to do with sound or how to troubleshoot stuff with that previous interview. But she wants to do another interview, redo the whole thing, and she'll be on after Brian's. So just want to let you know her name is Kristen. So you know, I still have you on the list, and we're gonna work with you that way. So, but yeah, I'm grateful that you took time out today. So just kind of a quick preface, Mormon Neurodivergence, as I've mentioned in previous videos, we look to highlight the experience and aspects of persons who may fall under the Mormon umbrella and also overlap with neurodiversity as far as being divergent from the typical norm of how people ought to behave outwardly or even think and maybe even love and things in that regard. So I'm excited to have Brian here today because he has a few things about him that he believes are, I don't want to speak for you, but I think would be helpful for maybe people who feel like they're so different and so maybe even different from even in a post-Mormon world, that they may have experiences that just don't quite jive exactly with neurotypical people who struggle with faith and just other things in life in general as well. And so without further ado, let's just get started, Brian. So tell me about yourself. We know your last name is Grunewald. That sounds German.
Yeah, it is. It is. Yeah. For kind of like a historical context. So just maybe not historical, it's more of a linguistic. So you got two parts to it. So you've got the first part, which is grün, green, and then Wald, which is like a forest or wooded area. So you got a green wooded area, green forest, green wood would be the English translation of that.
Oh, that's really cool.
Huh. Yeah.
Okay, very good. So now, so is your family all kind of pretty well established in the church going back then in the German line, or how does that work?
I don't really know for sure. I think I'm on my mom's side though. There was a pioneer. I can't remember what trail or what group he was with. But his name was John Cooper. He was just on the Mormon trail. I can't remember like what role he served, what position he held, but yeah, apparently that's as far back as I can remember. Just
okay.
him.
But you do come from some, I guess, pioneer stock as the term is used.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Okay.
I never really thought about it, but I guess sure.
Okay. That's cool. So all right. And then it looks here you were born in the 90s. So you're, I guess, what generation would you consider yourself as a part of?
So I think 94 is like the tail end of the millennial era. So I would consider myself a millennial.
Okay. Millennial. Very, very good. Okay, perfect. And so let's just jump into it. You identify as having some kind of neurodivergent aspect of who you are. Why don't you tell everyone what that would be or is?
So I was diagnosed young, probably like 4 or 5 years old, with what used to be known as Asperger's syndrome, but now they've kind of done away with that term. after they did some digging into the history of the man behind the name of the the diagnosis. So it's just high functioning autism now. So yeah, I was diagnosed at a young age, 4 or 5 years old, but I didn't find out about it until I was 16. That story about how I found out is a little interesting to say the least.
Yeah.
If it looks like you wanting to know what that was about, what that story was.
Yeah. So tell me. So it wasn't until 16 years of age, because
Yeah.
that's not very common to have to be at least not from my experience, to be diagnosed
Yeah.
as having Asperger's at the age of 16. Usually it's earlier than that. Do you think that's true?
Oh yeah, I believe it's really true, especially for males, because for males it's a lot more prominent, and it's like it's easier to diagnose a young boy, excuse me, than it is to diagnose a young girl, because it's kind of difficult to diagnose a young girl, because there's a lot of like, I don't know, there's a lot of emotions behind it. So it's common for women who've been diagnosed with autism at a young age to find out in like their 20s, 30s, even 40s, because they've been diagnosed with all these other things. But as I've actually been talking to somebody recently, another young woman who kind of who's seen my posts on Facebook about how I'm dealing with autism stuff as an adult, and she kind of came to me with like, I'm noticing these things about me. I'm noticing that I'm exhibiting these behaviors that would be characteristic of an autism diagnosis. And she went through those with me, and I'm like, I did these things a lot when I was a kid, and some of them I still do as an adult, but maybe in like different ways. They kind of evolved into something different. Um, so as she opened up to me about it, I was like, you know, it's the more you talk to me about it, the more I'm convinced that yeah, it would be worth going in to a professional to get a professional opinion and see what they have to say. But anyway,
Yeah. So
yeah.
let's dive into that a little bit. So you were just kind of describing yourself a little bit there. As far as your childhood goes, and I'm thinking 3 to about 11 years of age, as far as your childhood experience, because generally where most of our memories fall within our childhood. Whether it be through school, family, friends, church, etc. What was your life like before obviously being diagnosed, but just what was your life like from that perspective?
I felt like I was a pretty outspoken young kid. I had very narrow interests, which is another common autistic trait. And they would shift from thing to thing. Like I was like hyper fixated on Legos. Like a big thing was like Bionicles at the time. I loved those. I grew up watching like the Thomas the Tank Engine, and I had like Thomas the Tank Engine sets, and I would play with those. And then like it was like in 1995 or 1996 when Pokemon came out, and that's kind of stuck with me to now. I still love it. Those are just a few things. Another thing that I really enjoyed was like cartoons and stuff, and I guess that's what kind of got me into wanting to. And I know this is kind of gonna divert to a little tangent here a little bit, but growing up with cartoons and being so fixated on the characters and just loving the atmosphere of the shows that I've watched in my youth kind of inspired me to want to be a voice actor one day. yeah, it just to kind of recreate the magic that I experienced when I was a kid and be able to pass that on to the next generation of kids. Um, but yeah, I would I would quote the shows. I would do the impressions of the characters. Um, and I really just overall just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to enjoy my childhood, which kind of segues into like school. It really wasn't my thing. I didn't like the I didn't like the rigid structure of school. What I enjoyed the most about school, like not just like elementary school, but all through like middle school, high school, and college. I didn't really like class unless the teacher did a really good job, like of making the subject interesting. Um, like in fifth grade math class was fun because my teacher was fun. Yeah, just like those, there are like a very few classes throughout K-12 that I thoroughly enjoyed because of who taught it and how they taught it. Other than that, I really struggled in school, whether it was just like paying attention or not getting just not really understanding the material no matter how many times it was explained to me. And it, I just enjoyed this, and also just enjoyed the social aspect of it, just being around kids your age, just growing and having fun. Of course academics were important, but yeah, I would just like scrape by with like C's across the board, maybe D's. It was.
I have a question for you. You
Yeah, sure.
mentioned about trouble paying attention and grasping concepts. Was it ever brought up, well, maybe he should be tested for ADD or ADHD? Was that ever brought up with your family, or as far as you're aware, whether it's understanding that from as an adult or maybe even during the time?
It wasn't really talked about, attention deficit disorder or ADHD. Um, since like autism and ADHD are, in a way, they're kind of like cousins. Where ADHD, and for those of you watching who or listening that have ADHD, like don't get mad at me too much because my understanding of it is kind of small. But I feel like my attention span as someone with autism, it's I guess it's higher. Because it really depends on the subject. If we're still talking about school, another thing was like subjects like math and science were like, I didn't really enjoy those. But like I couldn't pay very much attention to those because they went way over my head. But things like fine arts or language or history, like those were the subjects that I really gravitated towards, that I could really hone in on and pay attention to.
Do you mind if I interject?
Yeah, go ahead.
Autism and ADHD have very overlap, like you said.
They overlap in a lot of ways.
What you were describing actually describes a lot of my experience as someone who has ADHD. So much that I kind of wonder if maybe I actually am on the spectrum for autism, but I don't know. Anyways, we're not talking about me. But it's interesting you say that because ADHD, we are capable of hyper focusing on something that really interests
absolutely
us, right?
Yeah.
And so I see some parallels there, but I see what you're saying though. Perhaps there is more of a difference though. Perhaps retaining information on something you're really interested in is very high end.
Like memory retention, like the subject I mentioned, particularly history. I guess I just have a like a fascination with numbers, I guess. Like when there's like a year in US history, like 1776, 1789, 1812, like blah blah blah, just whatever it is. I'm like, oh, I know what happened here. Oh, like 19, what was it, 1914 to 1919, like that's like World War One, and like here's what happened in World War One, and like
So numbers is a big thing in history for you. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
and I guess that's like when I got to high school, that's when I started to get better at math, because it was like, oh, it's a numbers game. I do numbers.
Mhm.
I'm pretty good. Like it's gotten to the point where like I still remember, and like not just numbers but like sequences of numbers and like just different factors. Like even now, I still remember like old phone numbers from when I was a kid, or even like old license plates from cars we used to have.
Wow.
It's like
It's just little random
like
things that
little
don't
random
matter,
things.
but
It's like it's seemingly useless information, but it's like it. I can do it. It's really weird.
Cool.
Like I memorized, like I said, old phone numbers. Hell, I've even memorized my credit card information, like all 16 numbers, the date it expires, the random 3 digits on the back, everything. Like
Wow.
it's crazy. Like I don't know how I do it, but it's just it's fascinating. It's kind of weird, but it's fascinating.
So I have to ask you, so when you get a card that expires and renews, is it just you quickly remember, oh, now this is the new expiration date, and you don't,
I was like, yeah,
like,
it's like,
is it easy for you to update that information in your brain, or is it hard to like have change?
No,
Does that make
it's
sense?
like my driver's license is going to expire next month, so I'm like, oh, now I know. Now I know, because these are the numbers that I see on the card. I'm like, oh, okay, then I'll just put it in my little my little numbers bank, and
Okay, cool.
and it's like, oh, these are important. Let's pull it up. Or like someone's birthday. Like they'll tell me the month, day, and year, and I'll just kind of file it away. And it's like, oh, your birthday's coming up, and they didn't have to remind me, or I didn't have to see a notification on Facebook. I just know.
Okay, very cool. So I think we've covered really well school. What were your friendships like as a child from 3 to 11? What were the dynamics there? Was it different maybe from a typical child, or the same?
I felt like, in a way, I was kind of. It just depends on like where I am. Um, when I'm not at church, I'm kind of the odd one out. Like even in my own family, I felt like I was kind of the odd one out. Um, and then at school, like even though I enjoyed just the interactions, those interactions were kind of hard to have, because and I found out a little later, it's like, I don't know what it is, but I kind of developed this idea that neurotypical people have this kind of internal radar that kind of snuffs out the neurodivergent people. Like, oh, there's something off about you. I can't really put my finger on it, but you're kind of weird. And I feel like especially at school, that's where I experienced that the most. So it kind of like, I tried really hard to fit in, but they could tell, but I didn't know why. It just went way over my head, and it frustrated me, because like they won't let me play with them at recess, or like I'm playing by myself and I'm just fine, but then somewhere in the back of my mind I'm thinking, you know, maybe, oh, voice crack.
That's okay.
Well, maybe maybe it would be good to have someone else to play with or a group of kids to play with, because this could get boring really fast. At church, though, I felt like I was kind of the golden child, like the the standard to which like every child should look up to. Like I was still a mischievous little kid in church. Like one of the things that I would do, because I'm pretty musically inclined, was um, the primary pianist would we would be rehearsing songs, and the pianist would play a wrong note, and like I would stop everything and correct the piano teacher. And I'm just this young primary kid. I'm like, you're supposed to play an F sharp instead of like an
Wow.
F natural or something like that. And then she, like at that particular point in the piece, and she goes back and she plays the chord correctly, and she like looks at me like, oh, you're right. Another thing I would do is I would like change the lyrics mid rehearsal, and it would make everybody around me laugh. And the primary director didn't really like that. It's like, come on,
And you just did that for fun?
I just did that for fun. I wasn't. Like I said, I was a fun-loving kid. I just wanted to have fun, and even in church, I just wanted like it doesn't have to be so uptight. Let's just have fun, you know.
Oh goodness, that's fun. I like that. I like that story. Those are good stories.
Yeah.
Man. Okay. Very cool. So yeah, so far it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like for the most part your childhood's been not bad, not super adverse, but still at the same time, maybe friendships, you wishing they were a little bit more than just being by yourself and kind of being ignored a little bit. But at the same time, you're comfortable playing by yourself. Is that true or not?
Yeah, like sometimes I would like try to have it both ways. Um, like I would want to go hang out with this group of kids, and like they're playing soccer, for example. I would want to play soccer with them because that's what they're doing. That's what the cool kids are doing these days. So I'll go hang out with them and kind of be in good standing with them. But somewhere like on the other side is like, man, this isn't really my thing. I would much rather be on my own shooting hoops over there. Nobody's on the basketball court. I'd just shoot around. And I would just kind of be pulling myself at both ends. And it's like, I'm there with my friends and having a good time. But it's just like, I have one foot in and one foot out, just like seeing the basketball court out of the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh, I want to be there too. And like, nobody's happy. Nobody wins because like, they see me as like, are you okay? Are you like, is something wrong? And I'm like, no, it's fine. Honestly. But in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I kind of don't want to be here right now. I'd rather be doing my own thing.
Yeah. I'll be honest, as you're talking, it's just bizarre. And I don't want to sound like we're like dating or something, but it's like I feel like such a connection. Like I can relate to a lot of what you're saying. And sorry, I'm just gonna pull down the blinds here for a second because it's starting to get really sunny where I'm situated.
No,
so
fine.
but yeah, I need to change that. So all right, there we go. Okay, that's a little
bit
bit
better. Fix it in post.
There we go. Yeah. No, so oh my gosh, sorry. Let's fix that real fast here. And I may not even edit this out because I think it's fun.
But we'll do it live.
There we go.
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live with other interviews. We'll see how this goes.
Awesome.
No, but yeah, I feel like there's a lot I can relate to, and I think that's just the nature perhaps of just being neurodivergent in general. Um, so let's move on to like kind of post elementary school. When did I feel like for everyone, middle school or junior high starts at a different grade? When did junior high or middle school start for you? What grade?
Middle school started at 6th grade, so
Okay.
probably like 11 or 12 years old.
About 11 or 12. Okay, so just describe then since middle school up into high school. Obviously, big changes happening in our bodies and things like that. And of course, your autism was received in high school. So let's start from when you were in 6th grade and kind of go from there.
I think this is where like middle school especially, this is where I really started to pick up on like, okay, I feel like they know like I'm picking up the signals that are being put out by the neurotypical people that sense that something's off about me. Like I'm starting to like, okay, there's something here. There's something going on that I'm not getting, and it would bug me to no end. Like, what is going on here? Why am I not making friends? Why am I not establishing healthy relationships? Why am I not doing well in these social interactions? There's something wrong. I can see I guess to the image that comes to mind is the Wizard of Oz. You see this grand projection, but there's the man behind the curtain. But it's like I see the curtain. I see the curtain, but I can't touch it. I want to know what's behind it, but I can't touch it. I don't know. Like, I don't know if it's because I'm afraid to know what's behind there, or it's just this constant nagging feeling of there's something behind that curtain. I don't know what it is. I want to know what it is, but I don't know where to start. I don't know how to talk about it. So it was just this constant struggle of like having this knowledge or this awareness that there's something off. There's something going on behind the scenes, and that would get in the way of my academics. I pretty much graduated middle school by the skin of my teeth because it was just so difficult. Like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Oh, man, puberty didn't help. Puberty did not help with that at all.
Puberty doesn't help with most of us who
who
are
doesn't.
neurodivergent, and those who are just neurotypical. It's even a struggle. So yeah, imagine. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
So I just kind of as we prepared for this, you did provide some notes. I did notice here you said something. There's something about you being the only white kid in your school. So where did you grow up, and tell me about that?
So I grew up in El Paso, Texas, which is like that western tip of Texas that sits right on the border with Mexico. I could literally see Juarez from my backyard, from my bedroom window. Yeah, I lived there from when I was 3 to when I graduated high school, so 15 years before I moved out to college. And yeah, I grew up being the only white kid in school, the only Mormon in school, just like the only one of certain things in my school. And then to add the cherry on top of being neurodivergent, I'm just like this just really odd one out in this corner of the great state of Texas. But yeah, just like all those factors had really made middle school especially really difficult. in like the early part of high school, like the first 2 years of high school. So like 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, 5 years. So yeah, that was really rough.
Oh, I'm sorry. So, as far as um, like how people treated you, generally, what I mean, how did that go? Is because it sounds like you still had a hard time making friends, like you mentioned before. How did people just treat you in general?
Um, it's like they wanted, like, it's like the kids around me, like they knew that I was different and they wanted to like exploit that. Um, I remember once in 8th grade, someone had started a rumor that apparently I was a racist. Yeah, yeah, 8th graders, and I and this girl, she's like the next table over. She just blurts out randomly in the middle of class. So Brian, I heard that you're a racist, and I'm like, or like you don't like Mexicans or something like that. And I'm like, what? What are you talking about? Where did you hear that? Um, and some random stuff. And I, when I would get told stuff like that, or when I felt like I was being like personally attacked, because I didn't know how to handle these kinds of situations in a healthy manner. So at the time, I just reacted very strongly. Um, Maybe they had heard me say something that maybe they had taken what I said, something that I said uh, sometime during our childhood, going to school, and had taken it way out of context, or like put words in my mouth that I would never ever say. And I remember just exploding in the middle of class, like, that's wrong. Like, why do you like take? Why are you misconstruing everything that I say? Like, it was awful. Like, I would have these outbursts in my childhood because, like, and I think at
So,
the core of it,
so you
yeah,
mean like in elementary school and every all school, you could
yeah,
have
just like,
outbursts.
yeah, I would have these really intense emotional outbursts. And I think the core of it, the reason for it, I think, was um, I I desperately wanted to feel understood. I wanted to feel validated. I genuinely wanted to be myself and be okay with it. But I guess the way I went about it um, just kind of rubbed people the wrong way. And then they just like they took that, which I think they gathered from that little radar that I mentioned earlier,
Mhm.
and then like, oh, he's the only white kid, so, and he's weird, so yeah, let's spin this rumor about him not liking Mexicans or something like that. um and let's ask ridiculous questions about Mormonism, and put him in a really awkward position, like, oh, so you want to marry multiple wives one day? I was like, what? No. And like, I would be put in these very awkward and defensive positions, where I felt like I was being continually bombarded and verbally assaulted with all of these mistruths and misinformation. And it really, really bothered me, that to a point where I would lash out. Like, I would scream, because that's not me. They are painting this picture of me that is completely wrong, completely fabricated, all because they wanted to provoke some reaction out of me. I was so easy
It was so easy
to pick at.
Yeah.
Yeah, my buttons were very easy to push. Then they knew exactly what to say to get me all riled up and potentially get me in trouble because I lashed out. But could I stand up for myself? No, because I didn't know how. I didn't know how to do it. So I would just get sent to the counselor's office or principal's office, and it's like,
how did your, assuming there's all this, how did your parents handle these outbursts? I mean, obviously they were notified at least part of the time, I would imagine.
yeah.
That sounds like another story.
Uh-huh.
If you want to wait to get into that as we go into adulthood, maybe that's something that may be more pertinent. I don't know, but or do you want to go over it now?
I feel like the cat is peeking out of the bag, so
We don't need to talk specifically about parents or anything, but just in general, more specifically to the school outburst thing. That's what I was thinking. Not a whole broad thing about your relationship with your parents.
I just I don't really know exactly, but I think they might have been like, there he goes again with getting in trouble in school again. But it's like like I said, I couldn't really talk to anybody about what was going on because like again, I knew something was wrong, but there wasn't a name for it. There wasn't a term for it that I knew of. And when I would try to explain myself, like, these things aren't true. Like they said things about me that made me really upset, and that's how I reacted. It's just like I felt like my emotions, as unhinged as they might have been for a child, they weren't really taken seriously. They weren't like, I don't feel like anybody really took the time to, sit down with me and have a nice, healthy conversation, like, and how to handle those kinds of situations. Instead, it was like, don't do that. Like getting in my face like that. That's inappropriate behavior. You should not do that. I'm like, well, how else am I supposed to respond? What else am I supposed to say or do when confronted with things that might hurt me? And it was really difficult to navigate through middle school and the early parts of high school, because with puberty, there's like a lot of rampant emotions, but yeah, having autism on top of that, it's just like it takes an already heavy snowfall of emotion that like a neurotypical person would feel going through puberty, and just making this really terrible blizzard of emotion and just trying to navigate through that was just a real pain. It was emotionally very painful to go through those 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. So then what events do you think led up to the pursuit of a diagnosis, or I guess the result of a diagnosis might be the better way to frame it?
So I guess this kind of finally gets me to how I found out, because for so long, that nagging feeling of there's something wrong but I don't know what, just it kept eating at me and kept getting in the way of my my social life, my academics, and everything like that. So finally, this is towards the end of my sophomore year. I'm in my geometry class, and my teacher, like I'd finished all my work for the day, so I was just kind of waiting for the bell to ring. And my teacher, she calls me over because she wanted to talk to me about something. And she pulls out this folder, this file, and she asks me if I knew what it was. I'm like, no. Then she opens it and she flips through the pages and gets to a page with my name and some information on it. And she goes down to about like the middle of the page, and then it said like reason Asperger syndrome. And she looks at me and she's like, do you know what that is? I'm like, no, I don't know what that is. And she's like, neither do I. So we Googled it together, and we clicked open the Wikipedia page on it. And I just had, what was it called? This
So let's
there's a
back up
term
for a
for
second.
it.
Did you?
Yeah.
Sorry. So you're saying your teacher was doing some kind of online assessment on you? Is that what it sounds like?
No. So what the file was I guess my parents, like before the beginning of the year, like every school year, like they would talk to the school's administration and tell them that I had been diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome or high functioning autism.
That was when you were 16.
No, I found out about that. They had been doing this. They had enrolled me in, I don't know if you're familiar with the 504 program.
Yes, I am.
They had enrolled me in the 504 program through K-12, like the whole time.
So the whole time they knew, and you had no idea.
Nope, not a clue.
Oh my God.
And what really rubbed salt in that wound was I can't like sometime in my adulthood I found out that my mom had told my sister, who's just a couple years younger than me, she told her what, Brian has autism. He has Asperger's syndrome. But whatever you do not tell him. Do not tell him, because something I can't remember what her reason was, but like everyone in my family knew about what was going on, and I had to find out about it from a geometry teacher, not my parents, not a pediatrician, not some other mental health professional or doctor, a teacher.
And the teacher was confused because they were
the teacher was confused. Yeah, she didn't know what it was. And then I had this like one of those like life flashing before my eyes moment as I'm reading this Wikipedia article. Just like the first like few paragraphs of this article, I'm like, oh my God, this makes so much sense.
It's almost like you're Harry Potter, and you find out that you have witch powers or something, but it's different though.
Yeah, I'm a wizard, Harry. You're a wizard, Harry. Like everything that has happened in the 16 years of my life leading up to this very moment finally makes perfect sense.
Oh my God.
And as I went through the rest of high school, like I would bump into her in the hallway, and like she would like apologize to me profusely about letting this information sharing this information with me, because like she was afraid that it would somehow ruin me, that it would like just shatter my psyche and just completely destroy me.
And
But
I'm
I'm like,
sorry,
yeah,
but I'm sorry. I'm not trying to throw your family under the bus. They were doing with
yeah.
what they understood at the
Oh
time.
yeah,
But
like
for
and yeah, at the time, like autism as a whole, like in the 90s, early 2000s, it was still kind of taboo. It was
it,
still like not as heavily researched as it is
not just
today.
autism, but anything ADHD was
Anything,
even
yeah,
anything weird,
any kind of
right?
mental, yeah, yeah, anything mental. It was still not nearly as talked about or researched as it is today. So it kind of like I kind of should give my parents the benefit of the doubt, because they had a very limited resources at the time. Um, but still, to not find out from them, um, to not have them sit down with me and tell me themselves, um, like the reason why I had gone to a pediatrician when I was a kid. Like I thought I was just going over there for just like a health checkup, and then just to kind of play with the toys in in the lobby while the adults had a chat behind closed doors. Um, I and I found out that I guess that was the reason why they were having those chats while I played, was because they were wanting to find out how to how to raise me, how to take care of someone who is neurodivergent, who's seemingly different.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
But I know that's
I
a
kind
very
of didn't
vulnerable thing
believe.
to share, and I'm very grateful that you did share that, because I think it's good for other people to hear these things and feel like, because part of me instinctually is protective and is like, Brian, you got screwed over royally. You were denied your dignity, you were denied your humanity, and
Well,
all this
maybe
stuff.
I was.
But even so, like I said, offering some grace to our parents, I've learned to do the same thing with my own parents.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So, anyways, I really appreciate you sharing that. And so,
Mhm.
I guess as we segue to your adulthood, I did things improve once you knew? Like, I mean, 16 is kind of like you're starting to prepare to jump out and to become an adult. I know when I was at 16, I was already thinking, I can't wait till high school's over. I hate this shit. You know, how was
Yeah.
that for you once you've kind of discovered, oh, okay.
Yeah. So to kind of wrap up, like when I would bump into this teacher in the hallways as a junior and a senior, she would apologize profusely, like I said, but I would just glow and be like, You did me a huge favor. You like I for the longest time I had this ever growing suspicion that something was up, and you shed a light on it. You brought it out. You put a name to it, and I cannot thank you enough for doing that. And I remember when I first found out about it, I was kind of like screaming it from the rooftops, like, "Yes, I finally like I'm not crazy. Like there's been something going on this whole time, and I finally know what it is." And then I remember going home that day, um, and I talked about it with my parents. And I'm like, he's like, "Guess what I found out?" And I told him like, "Well, I found out that I have Asperger's syndrome." And I'm like, "What? How did you find out?" Like, oh, my teacher told me. You know, she shared with me this file, um, and we both didn't know what it was, so we looked it up together, and it's just like, I just had this feeling like, yeah, this makes so much sense. This is so me. And then they were just kind of shocked, and I guess they didn't really know what to say. And then that just kind of, it turned into like this glowing, glorious epiphany to kind of this like sharp interrogation, like, why didn't you tell me? Like, why, how come I didn't find out until now? Like, maybe if I knew at a younger age, maybe middle school and these first 2 years of high school wouldn't have been so difficult, because I would have had a name for it, and not felt like I was crazy. I felt insane. I felt like more than an outcast in school. Not so much for being autistic, but being a Mormon, being a white kid, that was already hard enough as it was. Like, if I had this nugget of knowledge, everything else might have taken care of itself. But it took this long, and it took just a random encounter with a teacher, not you guys, not a doctor. Like, why? What's up with that?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
And then when I graduated high school, which my junior and senior years, like, it was a huge turnaround. Like, I barely passed my sophomore year, but my junior and senior years, I was like AB honor roll. Like, I don't know what changed. Maybe it was this newfound confidence in, it's like, oh yeah, I'm different. I'm just gonna ride this high for.
So,
Yeah.
and your discovery didn't stop with you just curiosity looking up Asperger's syndrome with your teacher. I'm assuming you researched more of your.
Oh yeah, I did. Like, I, as a musician, I looked up, like, not just like the musical greats, but also just like people throughout human history who had or might have had it. And then there's just this long list of not just musicians, but like mathematicians, scientists, philosophers, like presidents, leaders of countries, just huge long list of names. And I'm like, I just had this epiphany of like, if these people can make such a huge impact on humanity, like in the ways that they did, what's stopping me from doing the same thing? And I guess I was just riding that high for 2 years, and just like, yeah, I have this, and it's not going to stop me. So I'm just going to kick lots of butt in class, and I'm gonna do well in band. I'm gonna do well in pretty much everything that I do. And yeah, I rode that high all the way up to graduation, and then I got to college, and things slowly started to unravel. Like, the high was wearing off, because I realized that all I had was the knowledge of me having the diagnosis. Like, I have Asperger's syndrome, I have high functioning autism, and that's where it ended. Where it should have gone further, where like, how does this really affect me? How does this affect my interactions with people? How does this affect my performance in school, in extracurricular activities? How does this, just a lot of how about being on the spectrum. I knew what it was, but not how it really affected me. And this, it turned into a new nagging feeling that got in the way of everything. I knew the what, but now it's how. And like, how do I navigate adulthood with this knowledge, with this diagnosis? And it was like so many failed relationships. Like, I dropped out of school twice. I'd been fired from like 3 jobs. I had quit like 3 more. I had ended up in the mental hospital, not like a psych ward, but just like inpatient mental treatment facilities twice. And it was just because like I didn't know how to use this to use this information, to use this knowledge, to use my diagnosis to my advantage. I didn't, because like autism, for all of its faults and all of its challenges and even hindrances, there are so many other useful ways, a lot of ways to make this work for you, to use it as a tool to propel you and to guide you to success. But I didn't know what those things were for me. So it led to a lot of disappointment and even a lot of failure in my early adult years.
How did the church impact you through all these, I guess, coming of
Through all
age
these years?
years?
I wouldn't say that the church itself was a bad thing for me as a kid. It gave me another community to be a part of, and I think that's a really big thing that I think the church gets right, is that they, their emphasis is on the family, their emphasis is on the community of being part of the Mormon community. It's like Olive Garden, when you're here, your family.
Right.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say, like I said, I wouldn't say that the church itself was a problem, but it was, for me, it was used in a way that kind of, this is kind of tough, but it was used in a way to try to discipline me. It was used to try to make me into an obedient child, because, like I said, I was kind of all over the place. I was jumping from one thing to the other. I was like really loud, obnoxious, this kid that wants to have fun. I just wanted to enjoy my childhood. I just wanted to have fun. But that was, I guess it was too much for my parents to handle. It was like, reverence, obedience, those, just all these different gospel doctrines and principles were kind of drilled into me from a very young age. And I guess that's what kind of shut me in. It kind of buried my inner child, and it made me scared to want to be myself, to really express how I felt, which is like, band was a creative outlet for me to really express myself. And then when I got to college, I joined choir, which was an even better creative outlet for me to kind of put into words how I felt, which made me kind of fun to watch during choir concerts. Like people would come up to me at the end of choir concerts. It was like a lot of like there wouldn't be a single choir concert where I'm not up there and I'm either just having the time of my life and I'm just like, I'm the most expressive when it's like a really happy, energetic song, or I'm just bawling my eyes out when it's a really emotional piece. And they would always come up to me. It was like, we love your energy. We love how you express yourself through music. We love how in touch with the music you are. You let it show, and it felt so good to hear those things, to kind of feel validated for once, to be seen, to be heard in such a way. It's like, yeah, I really do appreciate that. Now, if only I could get that when I'm not on the stage, when I'm not singing. That's a whole other animal. That's a whole other beast to tame.
It's kind of like, and this is kind of recently brought up with athletic athletes like Olympians and stuff, how they're expected to be so strong and stuff, but they, just like other people, have their own mental health issues. And it's like the sport becomes a place for them where they don't have to think about the struggles of everyday living. And I guess in a way that could be how it is for you, where music is your way of being able to not only express yourself, but be in a moment where you're not worrying about, what do my neighbors think of me, or are my parents and I going to get along this next, family outing that we have. I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but you know what I mean, though. It's like you find something that you're so good at, and like you were just talking about how you're on the stage, you're performing. It's just a way for you to not have to, at least for a few moments, feel like you're different in a bad way.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm in my element, where I think one of the greatest compliments that I ever got when it came to music was at the end of a choir concert, and we went back to the green room, and the drummer for one of the other ensembles came up to me, and he said something to the effect of, you are a really good musician. Whatever it is that you do in your life, do not give up music. You have a gift. You have such a passion for music. Do not let that flame die out. And I really took that to heart. And like I had mentioned that I want to go into voice acting, and it's like no matter what role it is that I take, I want to carry on that same energy and passion that I had when I was a singer, and put that into the character that I'm going to portray. Bonus points if I get to sing as this character, because I'm already classically trained. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was just like when I wasn't in choir, though, when I wasn't there, and when I wasn't like hanging out with my friends, like in like the last 2 years of high school and throughout like my early years of college, and throughout all of college, really, the puberty's kind of died down. We're less emotional. We're more civilized. Because middle school and early high school kids are ruthless. But yeah, just when I wasn't in my element, it just felt like middle school and early high school all over again, where I felt like I was the odd one out. Um, where I just felt like I didn't quite fit in with the rest of the groups that were out there. It's like choir rehearsal. Oh yeah, this is great. I love it. I look forward to it every single day. So from noon to 12:50 in the afternoon, the highlight of my day. I walk out of there like, yeah, I'm energized with just, with music in my heart and everything like that. And then it's just like, I'm back to struggling with how to navigate being an adult on the spectrum. And I remember going to my my college counselor and talk to him about it. Um, Credit, kudos to him. He was a great guy. He was also my psychology teacher, um, which also helped. That was a really great class.
In which university was this that you attended?
This was at Eastern Arizona College, just a small community college in southeastern Arizona, like an hour and a half to 2 hours north of Tucson.
Okay.
Loved that place. Absolutely loved it there. I live in Utah now. I've lived here for a number of years, but not a day goes by where I'm always thinking of Arizona. Like I miss it down there. I love it.
Awesome. So then that's gonna make me ask you more questions. Like,
oh
Utah.
yeah,
How did you get to Utah? How'd you end up here?
So I did 3 years at EA, and then I transferred up to UVU, and this was about the same time that my mom decided to pull up roots from El Paso after about 20 years and move up here. So it was just this big family move up to Utah. And then I was here in Utah from 2015 to 2017. And then I had gotten fired from my full-time job after I had dropped out of UVU twice. And my parents had gotten divorced like right after I started college.
You mean at Eastern Arizona?
At Eastern Arizona, yeah. Like I graduated high school, and then like a month later, they called me on Skype, and they were like, "We're gonna file for divorce." And that made college a little tougher because I was dealing with that situation. And then in 2017, I got fired from my job, and then I contacted my dad, who had recently remarried and was living in Indiana, if I could live with him. And so he agreed, and he let me live with him. And so I moved across the country, and I lived with him for about a year and a half. And then things went south with our relationship. And then after Christmas of 2018, I came back to Utah, and I've been here ever since.
Okay. All right. Very, very good. Oh, so now I'm trying to kind of bring this back and kind of tie it in with your faith that you grew up with. Like, how would you describe the level of activity and, I guess, belief and faith of your family growing up, and how that changed over time as you were progressed through adulthood up until today? Sorry, that's a lot, but
oh yeah, no, that's fine. So yeah, we were all really devout throughout childhood. When I got to college, though, like the last 2 years of high school, like, yeah, I said that I was excelling in school, doing well and all this other stuff. But that's when like my parents' marriage started to unravel, where fighting at home became kind of a normal thing. I remember coming home from seminary one morning to my parents fighting, and I remember going to school in tears because like my parents are fighting, and like my parents shouldn't be fighting, but they are. I don't know what's going on. But I guess my faith transition is kind of unconventional in a way, because like I said before, it wasn't so much the church itself that got me away from it. It was how it was used at home that really soured my relationship with it. How it was used to get me to be obedient, to get me to act and behave a certain way that wasn't really in line with how I felt. How it just, yeah.
So you were
how
in
it kind of,
priesthood. You did the Boy Scout thing, duty to
oh yeah,
God, all that.
I did Scouts. I got my Eagle Scout award. I got it like 11 years ago now. It's been so long. I did scouting, and I remember hating, absolutely dreading doing my Eagle Scout project. It was like pulling teeth, because like I didn't want to do my Eagle Scout project. I didn't want to even do scouting. I wanted to do the stuff in scouting because it was fun. I didn't want to do the stuff in scouting because it was a requirement. Because if I have to do something, if I'm told that I have to do something or that I need to do something, the less I want to do it. If I find the fun in it, then it's like, oh yeah, I'll definitely do that. That's fun. I'll do that. like the rain gutter regatta racing in Scouts, like Pinewood Derby. Those were fun. I didn't have to do it. I did because it was fun. Like if it was like required of me for behold, it is a hard thing which you've required of us. But yeah, if it was required of me, I didn't want to do it. I remember sitting there trying to think about what to do for my Eagle Scout project, and I just sat there like, I don't want to do this. I really don't. I don't want to do this. Because not only did I not want to do it, because like doing it and coming up with everything with a big plan for it was super stressful. And I didn't know how to communicate that to my parents. And I remember my dad just kind of blowing up at me. He was like I still remember him kind of saying like, quit the bullshit. Like my dad never cussed. He hardly ever cussed when I was a kid. But most of the time he would be cussing out at me because like it was pulling teeth. It was literally pulling teeth. Like everybody, like I'm the second oldest of 4. All my other siblings, like they just kind of kept their heads down, didn't really get in trouble that much. They did everything they were told. They were the good children. And like even now I still consider myself the black sheep of the family. And I tout it, like even now as an adult, like the few times that I've been out with family, I just kind of like, yeah, I'm the black sheep of the family. And my sister gets mad at me. It's like, no, you're not. I'm like, am I though? like come on. Come on, really? But I guess like I know I kind of go all over the place, but like the reason why I left the church was it started out very personal. It was used to hurt me. It was used to like like I was abused with it. I was hurt by it. Um, it I felt like really I felt like I was suffocating. Like my inner child was being buried under obedience, under like religious obligation and all these other things.
At the same time, did it provide structure that you also liked, or is that not in your
Again,
case?
it was like I enjoyed the activities. I enjoyed um being around the youth, just the social aspects of church, of school, and all those other things. The social aspect, just having fun with it. But when it came to like actually taking part in like the gospel stuff, like it's like I did have a strong testimony of it. Don't get me wrong. Like I really like I would go up in like fast and testimony meetings and it would like blow people away because of like how strongly I felt about the church, about how I believed it was true and all this stuff. It's like, but behind closed doors, it was used as a weapon. It was used as kind of a whip to keep me straight.
When you say it uses a whip, are you? How, I mean, we're not talking literally.
Oh no!
Whipping you and for being disobedient. What do you mean by it's used as a whip? Like, are you speaking as a metaphor,
as a metaphor,
or psychologically?
Like emotionally, mentally, psychologically.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, I'm the Melchizedek priesthood holder. Do what I say, or like I'm your mother. Do what I say, not as I do, which is a really toxic thing to say.
Right.
It's really, really bad thing to say.
So it's really interesting that you're bringing this up about the church. And if I'm going to send you something that really kind of blew my mind. Okay. And I just sent it to you in Messenger. I don't know if you still have Messenger on your phone up or not.
I've got it on my computer as well.
Okay, cool. So if you don't mind looking at that and reading it.
Oh, I've seen this.
Okay, cool.
I've seen this. I like this. Yeah.
So, yeah, why don't you read it?
Yeah, I'll read it. Yeah, sure. The Maori word for autism is takiwatanga. It means in his or her own time and space. Yep.
Yeah.
I was in my own time and space, but I was pressured and forced to get out of that time and space and be in the time and space of this ideology that I felt at the time that it was true. But I think in college and being out on my own, I wanted to believe it. I still believed very strongly. Like the very first semester of college, this was when President Monson was still alive. And that fall was when they announced the age change for missionary service. And I was one of the millions of youth that wanted to jump on that hype train and be one of the 18-year-olds to go out and serve a mission. It was that Saturday. I was like, yeah, I'm feeling really good. Like, yeah, I want to go serve a mission. I want to do it. Yeah. And it was the day after, and then conference ended. I started having these doubts, like, is my testimony really strong enough? Like, do I really feel worthy enough to go? And ultimately, is this something I even really want to do? And I remember it was that Sunday night I had called my mom, or I'd called my mom about it. And she basically said, it came from the prophet, which means it came from God. Therefore, it should be taken as commandment. So you are going to serve a mission. And also, don't forget that it said in your patriarchal blessing on 2 different occasions that you would serve a mission. And think about the blessings that you could be missing out on, that you will be missing out on if you don't serve a mission. So we are going to get you ready to serve a mission right away. And it's like, I didn't really have a whole lot of time to think about the mission. Ultimately, I never did serve. But
so it's interesting.
yeah.
Now juxtapose all that stuff your mom said with what we just read about autism and Maori. What do you think? Do you think they go together or they clash?
Oh, they clashed. They clashed hella hard. Like I was enjoying the college life for the most part. If for no other reason than I found choir, and choir is really fun. I'm enjoying it, and I would probably feel the spirit more strongly doing this than going out and serving a mission. But
then they guilt you and say it's not, the mission isn't about you.
but
then
you know, I never
breath
really...
they say it is about you because you want blessings, because your patriarchal blessing said it. So it's like, well, which is it? Am I going on a mission for other people or is it for me?
Right. You know, and honestly, I never really, like, even though I wanted to jump on that hype train, like, I never really thought about a mission super seriously, looking back on it. Like,
are you the oldest in your family?
No, second oldest of 4.
Okay.
My older brother was on a mission at the time, and my 2 younger siblings would eventually serve their missions, though for shorter periods of time than the full 18 months for my sister and 2 years for my brother. But all in all, they served missions. They all went to and graduated from college. But I didn't. I guess it's just like it. I guess the that Maori term was, you know, being in my own time and space was really important to me. But I wanted to have it both ways. I wanted to combine my time and space with the time and space of the church. But in a lot of ways that the gears would grind. Hardly anything would mesh together. And so I found myself getting into quite a bit of spiritual trouble, I guess you could say. I found myself in quite a few bishops' interviews because I did some things that were not very good in the eyes of the Lord, I guess. And it was really embarrassing. But I think the reason why I did those things was because I not only wanted to be in my own time and space, but I think it was also a cry for help. It was also like, I'm desperately trying to be myself. I'm desperately seeking validation for who I am and who I want to be. I was looking for love, really. I was really looking for love, admiration, validation, whether it came in the form of romantic partners or friends or whatever form they took. Just like trying to have those 2 times and spaces and trying to get them to coexist. In church, in school, in the workplace, it led to disaster. It led to disappointment and failure. and heartbreak and loss. And it was just like, why does this keep happening to me? Why can't I just find something or someone and just have those things coexist like seemingly perfectly? Why can't I have a good coexistence for once? And so, like, fast forward to my time at UVU. I was in choir there, and a friend of mine in the choir invited me to this gathering in Salt Lake. It was like, I guess she went to go support a friend of hers who was going to be speaking at this event or something like that. And I was like, okay, I'll tag along with you. Why not? So we go to Salt Lake in this little park right outside Temple Square, not too far from it. And I come to find out that it's like this LGBTQ plus rally where people in that community who had been affected by church rules and regulations, speak out against the church, and like even people who have had friends or loved ones who were struggling with their sexuality, they trigger warning, they commit suicide because they have their own times and spaces were in conflict with the time and space of the church. And because of that, they didn't know how to deal with it, and now they're gone. And it's like, how, like, this is unacceptable. Like, there needs to be more acceptance. Like Proposition 8 was, like, while it was a huge success on the federal level, like, the church actively opposed it. If I remember it correctly, it was Proposition.
They supported Proposition 8, which banned marriage between.
I got it backwards.
Couples.
So you viewers who are kind of getting heated, I do genuinely apologize.
Okay.
I apologize. Right. I got it backwards. I'm so sorry. So I went to this rally, kind of not knowing what it was, because like I was just there with my friend. And in the corner, they had these little booths, and they were handing out these flyers. And I looked at this flyer, and I just looked at it, and people were signing them and turning them in. And I found out that these are blank copies of resignation letters from the church that they were going to send to church headquarters, like right across the street. And so I'm holding this resignation letter, and I'm just having another one of this life flashing before my eyes moments, like I had with autism. When I found out I had autism at 16, I was 22 at the time. I was at this rally. I have this life flashing before my eyes moment, holding this resignation letter. And as a kind of personal vendetta against how my parents treated me growing up and how they used the church to discipline me, I was like, you know what? Screw it. Let's sign it. And turn it in. But yeah, so I sent in my resignation from the church, and not really knowing anything at all about how the church, like everything about, like, the history of it, like the things that the they don't want the members to know. I didn't know any of that until like until like between then and now was the time when I learned bits and pieces of church history.
So it's
And
almost like
it shifted, the paradigm shifted over the last 5 years from a personal vendetta to, oh, this is a big picture thing. This is bigger than my own feelings. This is huge. So I guess then my reasons for leaving were like, oh, this is not this wasn't just damaging to me personally. This is damaging to humanity. This is really, really bad. This is really toxic. So
Right.
knowing that, I was
interesting.
like, yeah.
It's interesting because you have segments of the post-Mormon world where perhaps they leave, whether officially or just in mind and belief only, leaving the church,
Mhm.
where either it's truth claims really drew them away, or it was how they were treated
Mhm.
throughout their life is what drove them away ultimately. And you especially see that in the LGBTQIA plus community, and
Mhm.
we're seeing it, and that's part of why I do this. We see it also within the neurodiversity community
Mhm.
because of our differences. We have trauma of our own that's just as unique and
Oh, yeah.
separate perhaps. And
Exactly.
not to say that everyone who is neurodivergent leaves because of those reasons. They leave because of truth claims as well, as much as their own personal life. But that's just kind of a distinction I like to see. It's interesting to see that distinction. And then,
Mhm.
like you said in your experience, oh wow, the rabbit hole just got a lot bigger than a few little rooms of questionable
Pretty
material.
much, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. Yeah, I love your story. This is very fascinating. I guess kind of closing this up here, because we're limited on
Mhm.
what Zoom will let me do. Um, just kind of quickly tell me, what does it mean to you to be divergent, in any kind of framework? You can talk about the church, you can talk about other things, but just in general, what does it mean for you to be neurodivergent? Go.
The word that I like to use, and the word that I really want to resonate not just with myself but with others like me, is authenticity. To be neurodivergent is to be authentic. Um, it's it's difficult at first to kind of wrestle with this idea that, oh, being neurodivergent means I'm different than everyone else. That it's a bad thing to be different, to think differently, to act differently. Um, I mean, as long as you're not hurting anybody, if you're not causing any harm to anybody else, then you should be fine. But like in this day and age where it's a lot more researched and a lot more discussed, um, I think we've gotten to a point now where it should go from autism awareness to autism acceptance. Um, we ought to, like, we as neurodivergents, um, and even like people in the LGBTQ community, it's like it's okay to believe to be who you are. It's okay to be autistic. It's okay to be gay, lesbian, non-binary. It's okay to just be different because the world needs different. The world needs authentic people. Um, it's difficult and kind of unfortunate that we still live in a world where you're kind of just a cog in the machine, where you kind of just have to go through the motions and kind of just make the machine work. But whatever it is you feel within you, whether it's your inner child or your soul or your spirit essence or whatever it is you feel that makes you want to express yourself, that makes you want to pursue things that make you happy, it's okay. We need that. We need the world to see that neurodivergence is here, that that being gay is here, that being lesbian is here, trans, pan, asexual, bi, everything like that. We're all here. We're out in the open, and it's okay. It is okay to live the life we live, and as long as, like I said, as long as we're not hurting anybody, and as long as we're continually learning about ourselves, learning about how to navigate our lives in this crazy world we're living in right now, and making conscious, constant efforts, whether they are being out in the open, like being an outspoken advocate, going on marches and rallies and stuff like that, or you're just kind of the silent type where you're kind of doing your work behind the scenes and then just kind of waiting for your time to, like, okay, I'm ready with this thing. I'm ready to come out with this news. I'm ready to take the next step in my life. Like for me, like I said a couple of times that I want to be a voice actor, and the process has been very slow. But don't think that whatever progress you're making, however little it is, it's still progress. You're still improving. They are improvements. It's progress, and go at whatever pace that's comfortable for you. Do what you feel is right for you. Be true to who you are. Be authentic. Be you in this crazy world. And wherever you are in your lives right now, just know that I'm here. I'm here alongside you for the ride, and I support you. I love you guys, and yeah, just be authentic, be yourselves.
Well, yeah, I agree. Here, here. So, and before we close out things, there's a few fun things I want to kind of ask you. So this creature, this stuffed creature behind you I'm guessing that's your bed. Yes, who's that guy?
All right, so this here is Octavius Jones. I've had him for like 5 or 6 years. Yeah, he was a big boy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's real big. You're real big. One of my good friends shared a picture with me, like she had gone to an aquarium or something like that, and she had this on her head, and I'm like, where can I get this? I need this. So I found it on Amazon and I got one for myself. So yeah, this is Octavius Jones.
Octavius Jones. I love that he has a last name.
Octavius Jones.
Perfect. And then you have a cute little, was that another stuffed animal? Was that like a red panda or something?
This is a fox.
It's a fox. Okay, it's a fox.
It's a fox. And this is Socks, the fox, because he's got little socks.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. He was I went with another friend to the mall, and we went to this one little toy shop or whatever, and this was the last red fox on the shelf. And I'm like, I can't just leave him there. So I was like, okay, I'll get him.
Foxes don't belong on the shelf, but Book of Mormon stories belong on the shelf.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
bad joke.
I've got some other like little plushies. A couple of octopuses actually.
Yeah,
Go get 'em.
go ahead. Let's do it.
All right. So we have Octavius Jones back here.
Uh-huh.
We have Octavius Jones Jr. right here. This was given to me as a parting gift from another coworker who had quit. She makes these kinds of little dolls that for infants who are teething. They helps them with teething, and I'd seen one of these on her desk because she had made like this baby blue one for another coworker who had just had a son, and I'm like, can I have one? Can you make it red? And so she made it. Yeah, she made me one. I'm like, I didn't think she would, but she did.
Now, I was going to say, I'm assuming your favorite color is red.
No.
Maybe.
What gave that away?
Right on. Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. And then, you have even a little squishy one.
Yeah, a little baby.
It's so squishy. I
Little
love
baby.
it. Right on.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Brian.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, thank you so much. I know I appreciate it. I know I've gotten a lot out of it, even though I've kind of was able to read some of your kind of material. We like to prepare these interviews, and even then, I still learn so much just from this interview. And I hope other people watching this do get something out of it. And if you like what Brian has to share, and hopefully what others in the future have to share, please like and subscribe and tell other people, because we want to have people be aware that neurodiversity is real. It is a thing, and acceptance is needed. And because it's not easy thinking differently and behaving subsequently in different ways really from what society expects you to as an adult, especially. So, but exactly. But before we end, is there anything you would like to say, Brian?
I guess kind of a shameless plug. Part of my my desire to be a voice actor, I've been thinking about starting a Twitch stream, just to kind of take a little different approach to that. I'm still coming up with a name. I'm still figuring out like hardware for it, but eventually I should start a Twitch stream, and whenever I get that information and resources ready to go, I'll go ahead and put that information out there for you guys. I would probably just be gaming right now. I have games on my Switch. Probably play some games on there.
Have you ever done? Have you ever done any like dubbing things just for fun? Like you'll just take cartoons or other people and just do fun dubs, like I don't know, goofy stuff like that.
Yes, sometimes I remember I worked with a vocal coach last year, and I put together like 3 recordings. One of them was like little snippets of monologues from Shawshank Redemption, because I can kind of do a decent Morgan Freeman voice.
I want to hear it right now. Let's do it.
Okay.
Can you do it?
I'll do. Oh yeah. That's fine. Okay. That's fine. I'll do the one that he does at the very end.
Okay.
Yeah. Get busy living or get busy dying. That's goddamn right. For the second time in my life, I'm guilty of committing a crime. Parole violation. Of course, I doubt they'll toss up any roadblocks for that. Not for an old crook like me. I find I'm so excited I can barely sit still or hold a thought in my head. I guess it's the kind of excitement only a free man can feel. A free man at the start of a long journey, whose conclusion is uncertain. I hope I can make it across the border. I hope to see my friend and shake his hand. I hope the Pacific is as blue as it has been in my dreams. I hope.
Wow, that's really good.
Thank you. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe
So,
we'll have
yeah.
you on again if you start get things rolling again.
I
We'll
would
have you on
really,
again.
I
We'll
would
just
really
do a
love
fun
that.
thing.
I would love that. Yeah.
And
Awesome.
Neuro-Divergence is more than just interviews. I do want to have people on if you just kind of do fun shit like this. Like, hey, look what I can do.
Absolutely.
And play songs, read poetry, whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, let me know. I'll keep. Let me know, especially once you get things rolling on your Twitch. I honestly don't even know how to use Twitch, so I'll figure it out. But
yeah, I'm still kind of a noob myself with Twitch and Discord and stuff like that. Right. Heck, even Twitter. Yeah, I guess I'll figure it out when I'm ready to start streaming. But yeah, I'll let you know. And kind of a shameless plug, but also, like, if you're gonna watch me, keep watching Marco here. Keep watching his stuff too, and because he's been a great host. So he's got some good insights, and just keep watching his stuff.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, thanks, Brian. Take care, and I hope you have a great week.
You as well. Take care.
Okay. Hasta luego.
See ya.
See ya.